Hey guys, it's Rick from Lunch and Baggers. I'm gonna do some maintenance. It's coming to the end of the year now, and what I'm looking at is I'm gonna do some maintenance on my motorcycle. I've got a 2016 Road Glide Special with the twin cam, and basically before the end of the season I started to notice that my brakes are squeaking just a little touch, and you know, I could probably make them last a little longer. I checked. I've got a couple of good, say another month or so of riding, maybe a little bit more on them, but just to be safe and, you know, to prevent, you know, having to work in the really cold weather before putting stuff away in the wintertime, I thought, you know, hey, I'll go ahead, I'll change my brakes now, get them worn in just for the next couple of weeks of driving left before I start to get really ready to put my bike away. I thought, you know, I'll order some brakes. So I ordered some a really good set of double H sintered brakes from EBC. Now EBC is a really popular brand that's been around for a long time. They make a really good product. You can spend a fortune on brakes if you really want. I found these ones. Sorry, upside down. I found these ones here, $100 for the whole set, fronts and backs. Good price overall, from Amazon, shipped to my home the very next day. It was super easy, and if there's any kind of maintenance type of thing on your bike, I gotta tell you, doing the brakes, at least in the front, easiest thing you'll ever do. Any guy with a couple of tools can do this. One of the things is you want to make sure you have the right socket sets. Now it's pretty straightforward. What you got is you got a couple of different sockets. Basically you have to get a 12 point. Now a 12 point is kind of like a general tool. Not every shop might have it, but most hardware stores will have a set of 12 point socket. And this particular one obviously is SAE net. Man, my eyes are bad, right? 3/8. So a 3/8 inch 12 point will take off your brakes. You'll see when you go to take off your brakes. I'm going to show a picture of it here in a couple of seconds. But when you go to take off your brakes, these are the main ones that you need to take off to get the actual brake caliper off of the suspension. So front forks, you got to remove those. From there, there's a couple of things you're going to want to have. One of them, brake lubricant. This will stop those little squeaks, and I can tell you from the factory, they don't put this on the bike. Why? It's just an extra step of labor, but you will appreciate doing it in the heat of the summertime. You're using your brakes a lot in downtown traffic or whatever. This stuff, no squeak. There's always a little bit of chatter in a disc brake pad between the caliper and the pad itself. This will stop that from squeaking, I guarantee it, especially in the heat, because that's when it seems to come out the most, is when they're hot, they'll squeak. Another thing you want to get is blue Loctite. I like this particular one. This one here is from Permatex, and the reason why is it's got this little applicator. Oh, it's so awesome to use that, and it's kind of like roll-on at the other end, so you just kind of twist it up on the tube. It's not that little squinch, you know, like a toothpaste tube. I hate that kind of thing on this stuff because I really hate to waste the stuff. So that works really well. Needle nose pliers, because there's a trim tab or like a retaining clip that you want to remove from it. Of course, new set of pads. Your best friend, a long, thick screwdriver, flathead preferably. The reason why is you're going to want to push those brake pads apart when you're done with them, so that you can get it back on the caliper. Obviously, it compresses. That's the purpose of a brake caliper. So you want to push the old ones back apart so that you can get the new ones on and back on the disc easy. So that kind of thing. Allen wrench. This particular one, I believe, is a number 8. Jesus, doesn't even say it. I feel horrible. Anyway, I think it's a number 8. Oh, actually, you know what? It's a 5. So you're going to need a 5 Allen wrench, okay, to get the actual retaining pin that holds the disc pads themselves into the caliper. I'll show you how that works. Really simple. Like I said, guys, honestly, I like to talk mechanic stuff, and I understand how to do it, but doing it is a completely different thing. But doing brakes, no problem. Anybody with some tools could do this, okay? Yeah, so I chose to do the side with the ABS sensor. You can see it. It's basically right below the bolts. So you use your 12 points to remove these couple of nuts, and they're on there pretty stiff. So be ready to crank. I had just a small socket, so it took a little bit of effort. Anyway, I decided to use my impact to remove those bolts. Pretty straightforward. Make sure you remove the bottom one first. Put your hand on the caliper, because you don't want that thing slipping off and bumping into your paint or something. So just pull it down and away. Make sure some people take off that little clip for the brake line and the ABS sensor. You know what? There's enough room there. If you're careful, you should be able to remove without having to take that stuff apart. So it should be relatively easy. But yeah, once you have it off, you just pop off the little screen. You weren't. It's pretty straightforward. Flathead screwdriver. Remove that, and then from there, you just make sure to clean this up a little bit, and run some brake cleaner over all of this stuff, and just kind of get rid of all that gunk and build up. It's just makes for an easier, cleaner job. Be generous with this stuff. It's relatively easy, and it just cleans stuff up really well. So yeah. Once you do that, just place it back so that it's not touching your paint or hitting on anything. You should be relatively easy to do. Dry it off, sort of clean it a bit. This is just so I don't have any grease, and make sure when you're pulling it away there that you're not pulling too hard on your ABS sensor cable. So take that screwdriver, and what you're going to do is you're going to kind of like squeeze it in there. And the reason why I say a flathead is because the flathead is a little wider, and it makes it easy. You can actually turn the screwdriver a little bit, and it will push on those calipers, and it's going to mar them, so they're garbage anyway. But at least what it'll do is it'll kind of make it so that it pushes the pistons back into their seats, and give you some room. And you can see here, this is the clip. So basically, you can actually pull it off with your finger. It's pretty simple. It's just a little clip that retains and makes sure that the little pin that holds the brake pads into the caliper don't fall away. Sort of like a safety clip. So yeah, so take your Allen key, and then you're going to remove your safety pin. This is really not very difficult. Usually they're pretty gummy or gross. When you do pull it apart, clean it up, wipe it down, type of thing. It is a piece of stainless steel, so it's not like it's going to rust and get really, really messed up. It's just going to be full of brake dust and gunk from the road, so you're going to want to clean that puppy off. See. If it is looking pretty rough in the sense of like rust and other, or maybe even scratches or dents in it or something, go ahead and replace that thing. Now, you can see that they didn't put any grease on the pads from the factory. This is pretty normal, and also, I mean, you've seen it over the last, 15,000 kilometers or so that basically there's brake dust everywhere. That's because they're organic pads as opposed to sintered compound, and they do make a lot more dust. So yeah, go ahead and spray, clean that thing up again, because you're going to get into the actual pistons themselves in that area and kind of clean out that junk. Have lots of shop towels around. They're always awesome to have. So have a look, make sure everything's okay on your thing on your brake caliber, and you should be good. I pre-lubed my brake pads for installation. Make sure you install them in the right way. There's only one way to install it. They kind of tip in one side, and then kind of you'll feel the spring of the unit when you put it in, and it'll kind of like sit in there straight. If they're a little crooked, what happens is that means that the spring itself didn't accept the way it went in. So sometimes you have to remove it and reseat it. Just yeah, relatively simple. Sometimes, like I said, like if you can't push them back flat up against the thing, it's because they're not seated properly. So just pull them out and reseat them. Yeah, pretty simple. Make sure you don't pinch the ABS wire when you go to put stuff back on. But like I said, I needed here to clean off my pin before putting it back together. See, one of the discs popped out, so I think that I can't recall if I had to edit this or not, but basically, yeah, even after putting in the pin, I noticed that it was a little crooked, so I took the brake pad back out and reseated it because it didn't quite sit straight. So you can see, I don't know, it's hard to see if you can see that one of the brake pads themselves is a little crooked. So I ended up taking that pin back out and reseating it. You don't have to crank that pin down. I believe it's only nine 9 inch or 9 foot pound, whatever you call it there. Basically, it just has to be seated. It's just to make sure that it doesn't come back out. Remember, you're putting in a pin anyway, so the safety pin is going to keep that thing in there. So don't crank the crap out of it because it just makes it more difficult for you to take it back off. You can see how when you put that ABS sensor back on, it goes in with the dent going in towards the brake caliper as opposed to the dent coming out. So you'll see, make sure you don't pinch the wires. Kind of, you can move it around. It slides up and down that particular cable. So before you're ready to crank things down and tighten stuff up, you're going to want to make sure that it's loose enough that you can move it. See, it gives a little bit of movement up and down, just so you know that it's not pinched underneath something. Yeah. So you pop your bolts back on, give them a good, like a little quarter turn. I think that it's, I want to say 75 to 85 foot-pounds, but check your own specs depending on the model year and stuff like that. And obviously I had already put
some blue Loctite. Now, blue Loctite is really awesome. That stuff, it's the kind that just kind of keeps it in there, and when you want to remove it, well, then you can remove it relatively easy. Don't forget to put your pin in. I almost did. And you'll feel when it's in because it won't come back out. The screen has 2 nibs on one side and 1 on the other. The 2 nibs goes down. That's a good way of remembering how that works. And again, check your ABS cable for play. Make sure that it's not screwed up or scratched or broken or something, and you should be relatively good. So it's that simple. And moving on to the back. Moving on to the back is pretty straightforward. You'll see that there's a lot of looking screws on there, but really there's only 3 that you have to be concerned with. The 2 bottom ones, those are the retaining, and you'll notice that they're not 9 or 12 points. They're actually Allen keys. So yeah, you have to have an Allen wrench to remove the caliper in the back. Why Harley didn't do the same thing in the back and in the front, I really don't know. I guess that's aesthetics or something. Sometimes these things don't really make sense, but yeah, you can see that there's no screen either on the back caliper, even though it's basically the identical caliper. You could put a screen on there if you really wanted to. I think some of the other bikes models do have screens, and but I mean, really, it's hidden behind your bag. You're not going to see it, and yeah, so pop those puppies out, and the way that this pad comes out is a little different from the front, because you'll see that it's kind of tight against the rim because of the smaller rim. So you want to be careful not to scratch your rim or anything when you pull this thing out. So what you kind of do is you kind of pull it a little bit towards you, kind of create some gap in those in the pistons in the calipers themselves, and as you pull it out, you'll get a little bit of room, and you should be able to take this thing off the disc with very little effort. Like I said, just kind of be wary that you're not going to want to scratch your rim or the polish on your rim or something, especially if you have chrome or something. So yeah, I pulled off the retainer clip just so I wouldn't forget it somehow or whatever. And before taking it actually off of the disc, I removed some of the tension in the safety pin, only because the brake line in the rear here is a little shorter than it is in the front, so you got very little room. So I thought, oh, you know what, I'll just loosen it and then take it off as I take it off. So yeah, give it a little bit of a tilt. Sorry for my arms, guys, and stuff, but I don't have a bike lift, so because I didn't have a bike lift, I just did it on the Jiffy stand. It surprisingly was still quite easy, and yeah, shouldn't have too much of an issue. This one is really quite dirty. Obviously, it's in back with the bag kind of hiding everything, and it collects a lot of road grime back there. So yeah, use that. Be generous with that brake cleaner. It's cheap. It's cleans up really well. Make sure to wipe down your exhausts and stuff like that afterwards, because it does drip all over you. Same thing with your rims. It's not going to hurt anything. Basically, it's just I guess it's like an ether or something like that just kind of cleans everything up, breaks down all the grease and grime. Yeah, so remove that pin. Remember, clean it up. Get it nice and shiny again. You don't have to lube this pin because, like I said, it's just basically a retainer. It doesn't have a whole lot of movement, and yeah. It's kind of nice using the spray too. It, you know, makes your calipers nice and clean and keeps the grime away. One thing I don't really like is grime. I'm not a huge bike washer guy. There's some guys that polish their bikes every time they take them out. I am so not that person. I wash my bike like twice a year, maybe 3 times a year. Or if I'm going to a show or something. Like, look at the grime on the back of these. So you can see the difference between the front and the back is that these are much grimier. There's, you know, I think they call it loading. So loading your back so that, you know, you can do parking lot maneuvers, stuff like that in a bike. Well, it creates a lot of brake dust in the back. And that's one of the reasons I went to the double sintered brakes. They're a little harder material. It's not going to wear out your disc anymore. It's just basically going to produce less dust. So I forgot to bring in the or push in the pistons, so I just put the old ones back in, the old pads back in, and sort of squeezed, like I said, the pistons back into place. Some people tend to take the brake covers off of their brake levers. Me, you know what? It's not that difficult to squeeze these things in, and because I know that I've never topped up my my brake reservoirs, I had lots of room in there. So you're gonna check it afterwards anyway. So yeah, pull those old things off. Throw them out. Give it a quick, because I use that screwdriver, I always want to make sure there's no little debris or anything stuck in there that from just residual brake material. While you're in there, you know, you can see that spring right there inside. You can always check it, make sure it's relatively clean and not broken or bent. It shouldn't be, but you know, you never know, right? Again, putting that brake caliper lube. Make sure it's flat against the pistons. Pretty straightforward. It's like I said, this is a really simple job, guys. It's, you know, anybody that has a couple of tools in their garage and a lot of patience, this is a really simple maintenance thing to do. You don't need to be a full-on mechanic. It's going to save you a good $300. Like, it's you know, especially nowadays when it's like $80-85 an hour for a technician to do work. This overall front back material wise, man, I'm gonna say altogether, preparing and setting up and everything else, you're talking like an hour and a half job at least. So plus that, the materials in the sense of the brake pads being $100, and you know that if you go to the dealer, for sure it's going to be a little bit more than that. And you know, it's worth doing it yourself. It gives you an idea of how much maintenance is really required on your bike, and super easy to do. So there you go. Make sure you put your retaining clip back on as well. You do not want to forget it. See, it didn't quite go in right, and you can feel it right away because the pin just doesn't feel tight. So just run it until you hit the ridge, pop it back on there. Once it's on, you'll know. And again, tilt your rotor just a little bit when you go in so you don't scratch up your rim. Seat's pretty easy. Make sure you put your Loctite on your bolts. Trusty blue Loctite. It's your friend on a Harley Davidson. There's a lot of shaking going on, and this stuff is just, I love this stuff. Especially, you know, some parts throughout your bike, you know, in other areas, you know, seat retaining clip, all that kind of thing. This stuff is just awesome to have the blue Loctite. Don't use the red. Red is for motor parts. And the reason why is that shit locks down, and you won't get that bolt out in an easy format. This just keeps it from rusting, keeps it from slipping out too. Just enough tension to keep that bolt in there. Again, I can't remember. I think it's pretty much the same as the front. It's 75 to 85 foot-pounds, I believe. But, you know, a good crank down and nothing ridiculous. It's not going to fall off of there. But, you know, make your own decisions on how you want to do that. After you're done with this, it's going to take about 200 kilometers, 250 kilometers before your brake caliper, or your brake pads, sorry, start to wear in to the point that they're comfortable with the rotors. So, you know, if you feel that your brakes are going to feel a little spongy for the next couple of weeks or next day or whatever, the reason why is it's got to reseat itself to the actual small micro grooves that are in the current discs. So yeah, be aware that that it's going to take a little bit of time to wear in. Simple, easy to do, guys. Anybody could do this. Yeah, thumbs up. Yeah, put everything back together, put your bags back on, your side cover on there for the rear. One of the things that you're definitely going to do is you're going to want to pump your brakes 4 or 5 times, each front and back, to seat those calipers and put them up nice and tight. You'll feel, on average, I'd say 5 full squeeze. And that's about it, guys. Good luck.